Tonight, Electoral Commission chairperson responds to critics questioning her neutrality as she declares the commission will not plunge the country into war under her leadership.
Even if my father was the president, you cannot rig the election for anybody. The EC cannot, unless the EC wants to plunge this nation glaringly into war. We should produce the evidence to show that this person is not neutral.
We'll hear how the EC is seeking to save the state $20 million after it was forced to pay $1.7 million to a private contractor to clean biometric devices. The commission has been talking tough on its aggressive plan to reform the commission.
And what we are saying is that we are not going to allow anyone to come and push us over. That this is what we want you to do.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion. GASM, the nation builder. Vodafone, the future is exciting, ready. And the nationwide medical health insurance, your healthcare family. Now, former President John Mahama had questioned their neutrality, but today the Electoral Commission is asserting its independence and neutrality. Even if my father is the president, I cannot rig the elections. A direct quote from the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madam Jean Mensah, who has been laying out the detailed plan and committing to get the EC to be fair to all political parties acting in an open and transparent manner. The EC chairperson has also, for the first time, opened up about the state of the commission when she and the colleagues took over from the previous administration. And she and her colleagues, commissioners, they have been speaking to us. They paid a courtesy call on the multimedia group here. And we had a long conversation. There is a lot to get through for you tonight, including how the EC was compelled to pay $1.7 million for cleaning biometric devices, and that was paid to a private contractor. We'll get into all that shortly. My colleague Malik Dabu sat in that meeting with the EC and joins me in the studio as well. I want you to listen to John Mahama, who was speaking just yesterday to City FM, raising questions about the EC's neutrality.
So they must shape their public appearance to show that they're going to be neutral arbiters in this game and not partisan, And I believe that some of the fights they are picking with IPAC and things are not necessary. I hear the last IPAC meeting, security forces were brought there to search people and all that. I don't think that it's a useful way to go. There are several things they have to do before we go to the next election. And our duty is to help the Electoral Commission to do it in a way that we feel comfortable. For instance, their IT system, they are doing some procurements for a new IT system. It's not been discussed with the political parties. In the past, any changes that EC was going to make, it called the political parties, it gave them a briefing of what it was doing, it walked them through the procurement process. Which company is coming to do it? Do we all have confidence that that company will handle it in a manner that is not injurious to any of the political parties? Unfortunately, this is not the case. They're in the process of systems going, who they are dealing with, what kind of system they're going to put in place. And so the EC is not being as forthcoming as it should.
Now, that is the former president speaking about the issues that he has with the commission. And he questioned the neutrality, and on the back of all that he just said, stating that he's doubts if the EC can be neutral. Well, today, the chairperson of the commission has been responding to that, and others as well, who have raised questions about herself, her neutrality, and that of her fellow commissioners.
It would be very difficult for anybody to accuse, the empire of, not being neutral. I don't see the issue of neutrality. There's absolutely nothing you can do. There's absolutely nothing you can do. Even if my father was the president and I'm put in this place, because of the systems that we have built and what we seek to do, there's absolutely nothing we can do. And it's one of the areas that, I'd like to discuss, to really take off the shrouds of secrecy and to expose Ghanaians to the system that we have, right from registration all the way to election day. Any stakeholder can monitor and police it. So you come to registration, parties have to be notified 21 days in advance. The agents out there are electoral officers. They are temporary staff who the head office has no connection to. It's district officers who appoint them. And once you do, you have to even present their photographs and their details to the political parties. And if they have issues with any officer, they raise these issues. If they are legitimate, you take them out of the role. So it's very, very difficult, and it's unfortunate when anybody, says that they posturing or, a person cannot be neutral when there's no evidence to that effect. But we're doing our best, and this is where we really need you to go with us along the way, because we are really ready. We are here to ensure that it is the will of the people that stands. We are not here to plunge this nation into war. And anybody, that's the only way. You cannot rig the election for anybody. The EC cannot. Even at the polling stations, you have your officials there. The EC cannot, unless the EC wants to plunge this nation glaringly into war. It cannot happen. Right from the start to the finishing line, the processes are watertight, they are transparent, and we're looking to work with our partners, the media, the political parties, to identify, along the line, if there are some loopholes. These things should be unearthed so that together with the parties and civil society, the media and so on, we can plug those holes and tighten the screws. But I think it's unfortunate that, anybody would say that, the chair of the EC is not neutral. Because, there's I think that point has been made right from the onset before I was appointed. Yeah. But, I haven't been able to, the evidence, we should produce the evidence to show that this person is not neutral.
So that is Madame Jean Mensah speaking today when she and some of other commissioners paid a courtesy call on the multimedia group, asserting their independence. And she makes the point that accusations against her had been laid even before she was appointed, right after she was appointed, before she was confirmed. Her other commissioner, Deputy Commissioner, Dr. Bosman, put the point even more forcefully.
In IPAC, we explained this. Because of these challenges, the commission has been thinking of rolling out a new technology so that we are going to encourage competition, allow many people to come on board. And this has been the main problem why I think when we finish our IPAC meeting, the NDC will say, this and that. So, for example, the contest of the president's position that he thinks the EC cannot be neutral. From where I sit, I train as a political scientist. From where I sit, I don't think the president was making that point, or the former president was making that point merely by looking at it that, Mrs. Mensah was coming from here, Bosman was coming from here, Mr. Tete was coming from here. There could be maybe because the EC, we are thinking that certain things, we believe that the status quo cannot continue as long as there is a problem. Because if we are here to continue the way things have been done, which they were not being done properly, then we have no business being at the Electoral Commission. We are there to fix problems. When we came, I think they mentioned, it will shock you that the EC was designed as an institution to run elections. A whole EC procurement, every year we do procurement more than 500 million Ghana cedis. We had only 2 people working in procurement. And that's the reality. And as we speak now, we are in the process of trying to build a procurement. So fundamental challenges, but what we've noticed is that, and as I think in terms of the partnership, one of the things I want is that at times the media, when people make certain comments, I think you allow them to go scot-free. And that's my major problem. The point is that the media, they know nobody can rig it. But yesterday I was listening to an interview, I think those who are organizing demonstration against the NCA or someone, and you were interviewing, a question was asked, but the people are acting based on the law. And I think somebody responded that, if you are acting based on the law, there must be a human face. So in other words, at one point, we want the law to work. At another point, we also think that if the law is working, we must take certain factors into consideration. And this commission, what we are saying is that we are not going to allow anyone to come and push us over. that this is what we want you to do. We look at the situation, what is the right thing to be done.
So you had first you had Jim Mensah making the point how they cannot rig the elections, and you had her deputy make the point that they're simply enforcing the law and that they won't allow anybody to push them over. But Malik joins me, he's my colleague on the political desk, and this point has been made many times, which is the fact that the electoral commission, political parties in opposition always suspect the electoral commission of having a plot against them approaching elections. See, you listen to the EC chairperson today in that meeting where we all in, and she was absolutely emphatic, convinced, as listeners have just heard, that it is impossible to rig the election. True?
And the basis of her conviction simply is this: the electoral system in Ghana is so scrutinized and so policed by the political parties that it is practically impossible for anyone, such as herself or the commission sitting in Accra, to be able to rig the election. That position she canvassed chimes perfectly with similar positions canvassed by her predecessors, and I'm talking about Dr. Kuja Farijan, the longest-serving Electoral Commission chairperson, and the immediate past chairperson, Madam Charlotte Osei. Both of them have consistently said that it is practically impossible for anyone to rig the election. And you have to remember Farijan's famous statement that elections are won at the polling stations. So if elections are won at the polling stations, and this essentially is the calculation, people vote at the polling station. The results are tabulated and declared at the polling station. Now, on the back of a case which was brought in 2016, led by Kofi Bentel and Gabe, if I remember correctly, the Supreme Court ordered that when election results are declared, party agents should be given copies of the pink sheets. Yep. And Mrs. Jimesa made the point that with those copies of the pink sheets, it is impossible for anyone to tinker with the results because the political parties have the results. And she made the point about right from the balloting process, right from the printing of ballot papers, the political parties sleep at the printers where the ballot papers are printed. And the ballot papers have serial numbers. The political parties know the number of ballot papers that are printed.
And they can track it.
Absolutely, they can track it. They know the number of ballot papers that go to a particular polling station. They know the number of registered voters in that particular polling station. When votes are declared in that polling station, the political parties can tell whether or not there is overvoting, and they can tabulate their results right at the polling station level.
In addition to all that, our history since 1992 has shown that this suspicion by opposition party that the EC can rig elections is simply not true. I mean, you can go through the various EC chairpersons and how the elections have panned out, both for the incumbent party and the opposition party. It just doesn't back that.
In 2016, even before 2016, 2014, we remember the Abu Ramadan cases, the series of cases that Abu Ramadan brought, and culminating in the Supreme Court judgments declaring that the NHIS card was not sufficient proof of citizenship for a person to use it as a basis to qualify to register as a voter. Now, when that decision was taken, the Electoral Commission was mandated to eliminate persons who use that card to register as voters. All the way to 2016, the opposition party at the time consistently raised doubts about the willingness of the Electoral Commission to organize free, fair, and credible elections. This was President John Mahama's response to the complaints of the opposition at the time. And I quote, "Let us give the EC the peace of mind to do its work. They have done it before, and indeed, our Electoral Commission is one of the best commissions in the world, in the whole world. And we have confidence in them to be able to conduct an election. And so let's leave them peacefully to conduct the election." This is former President John Mahama in July 2016.
He believed in the commission.
Absolutely.
The election results, and you pointed out, that time and MPP were against the Electoral Commission. Yes. They were criticizing it at every opportunity. John Mahama and his government then, as incumbent, they were supporting and almost always defend the EC. And the suspicion was that what? There's a belief that somehow the Electoral Commission, the same suspicion that they have of this current EC, that somehow the EC was going to do something against the MPP and favor John Mahama. As it turned out, John Mahama got his heaviest election defeat yet, and the woman she appointed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Nanado got his most significant election victory yet, and the woman he and others suspected that she was going to rig the elections for John Dramani Mahama.
Which raises fundamental questions about the validity of the complaints sometimes you hear from the political parties, and whether there is a basis at all for the complaints.
You can even go back in history. 2000 elections. The elections that brought in the first MPP administration. Same. Before the election, there were concerns about Afarijan's neutrality. Even in 2008, you remember, there were concerns again from the opposition about Afarijan. He stood his ground. The election results showed that the opposition party won the election.
And Evans, to be fair, the complaints of the political parties have undoubtedly led to major reforms in our electoral system. And sometimes the political parties have to force the EC to move.
Yeah.
But it does not invalidate the fact that the EC in and of itself cannot rig an election against or for a political
So all the
party.
evidence supports the claim and the insistence of the Charlotte Society today. Now, to the fundamental concern that the NDC have had, and we'll speak to the the General Secretary shortly, about the STL deal and the limited registration that is going to happen today. Today, we got for the first time the real reason why the Electoral Commission is restricting the limited registration to the district level and not to the electoral college. Some fascinating details that Madame Charlotte said disclosed today. Madame Jean Mensah disclosed today about the real reason, and it goes to questions about finance, money, contracts that have been signed that they had inherited that they simply want to reform. Listen.
I think the proposal was to refurbish the existing kits that we have and the data center and to procure additional ones because over the years some of the kits were not working. So we took a good look at it and we felt that, $56 million is a lot of money. So what the commission decided was to bring on board the biometric consultant who had advised the commission in 2011 when the commission decided to bring on board the biometric infrastructure and that voter management system. So we invited him and he came to Ghana for 10 days and he reviewed the proposals and our systems and our data center and basically came to the conclusion that it was not financially prudent. In his opinion, technology had evolved and you could, have accurate, easy to use and, equipment at a cheaper cost. And so he took just the biometric verification devices, the BVDs. He just took the proposal from STL and he looked at it and he also looked at procuring a new one. And he gave us a cost of less than 20, the difference between them was $20 million. Yes, in favor of the new one. So you're looking at procuring new kits and you are buying less. And these are modern day devices. What this meant was that if we went with the STL one, you would be buying devices from 2011. Technology had evolved. If you look at the modern day, what we have is a whole suitcase as though you're going to an engagement to marry a woman. And you have to carry these robust suitcases. The case alone costs the commission $2,500 for that case, to put the things in. And you are talking thousands of cases. And you look at robust kits, some of them come like tablets. You can use it for your registration, you can use it for verification, and you can use it for transmission as well. You can scan it and you can transmit. You can scan your pin sheets and you can transmit. So we asked ourselves that why do you go on with such a system that is not user friendly, that is costly, and you are maintaining it at very high costs. Additionally, you come into the IT department and the IT director tells you, Madam, I don't know. We don't have administrative rights to our passwords. We've never had until we came in. And so the system, the biometric data and everything is controlled by external vendors. Nobody has been trained. Our discussions with them are to the effect that our staff are not trainable, and so everything is run by external vendors. Let me give you, these are foreigners. Let me give you and they control our system. They have unlimited access remotely and physically to our systems. Let me give you an example of even the referendum. We have what we call the verification devices, and we had to clean and about 13,000 of them ahead of the referendum last year. And what we say we are cleaning, we just take wipes and then we wipe them, we test them to make sure that it's working, then we put them in the box. We paid $1.7 million for it. We called our IT director. We said to him, Mr. Nunu, we will give you $200,000. Take it with your team and do it. He said, Madam, we don't know how to do it. So you come in there and you go in there, our data center is just about this room. You enter the place, you are furious because you find empty boxes, the place is filthy, wires all over the place, and we are paying $4 million a year to maintain it since 2011.
So that is the explanation there. And so her point is that if we decide to go ahead with the mass registration as we've done in electoral areas, you would need to refurbish and buy more biometric devices. That will cost us $56 million. If we wait and do a limited one, which they're doing now, then we can invest in buying the most modern equipment. That will save us $20 million. And they decided to save Ghana $20 million and restrict the current registration so they can do that later. Let's bring in quickly, because I know the NDC had raised issues on this matter. They are a key stakeholder in this. Now that the public know what the real reasons are, it's just curious to find out what the NDCs themselves make of the explanation we've also received that we share with the public. I'm grateful to say that we've been joined by the General Secretary of the party, Mr. Seydou Nketia. Mr. Seydou Nketia, apologies. I know that you've been online for a while. Sincere apologies for that. But I just wanted to make sure that our listeners understand what Jim Mensah is saying about the reason that we've had some complaints. What's your reaction to what we just heard about the STL, but also the limited registration?
Thank you very much, and good evening to listeners. You see, this type of sole source discussions would not allow the real facts to emerge. So I would love an opportunity to engage once you are there. Then as the issues are raised, we'll deal with them. But that's not happened. But let me give you, some my impressions about what you have said already. You see, the basic problem we are faced with is that of credibility of the Electoral Commission. Because, you see, we have several instances where you have Electoral Commission coming out to say something. Then within days or weeks, they change that thing as if it was never said. And it has not been done once or twice. It has been done on several occasions. So even as I'm listening to these interviews, I'm not sure what they are saying now. They will not even run away from it. Because when this business of limited registration came up, and we raised this issue about the challenges it will pose when we limit the registration centers to EC offices, district offices. The official line of the commission was that they were going to hire buses to convey people from their villages to the registration centers. Do you know that when we held a subsequent IPAC meeting, the commission claimed that it has never been their business? So what they are telling you now, which they have not told us at IPAC, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, to hold them to in the first place.
On that point, we heard from Bosman today who said that it was a proposal, but after they interrogated with the IT department assured them that they could deploy mobile devices that could mop up areas in need.
How would you present proposals as decisions of the commission? The tapes are there. He granted interviews on several networks. And it was the official line. We were only to be told later on that they are proposals. So what they have told you now, how do we know the difference between their opinions as individuals and the decisions of the commission?
Except that 3 commissioners, including the chairperson, all make the point today, and that, I guess, is the official position.
So if tomorrow they say that they were just proposing, they were considering a proposal, how do you hold them to their word? Because you see, but even before then, let's come to the issues they have raised and they keep repeating. The fact that Afghanistan or anybody said that Ghana's electoral system was so robust that it cannot be tampered with, or the electoral commission cannot determine who will win election and who will lose election. That is exactly the point we are making. Because Charlotte Osei never attempted to change the electoral system that has been developed over the years. And you are changing it, removing the building blocks that guarantees us that this thing cannot be tampered with.
How have they done that? How have they done the removing of the building blocks? Can you explain that?
But they are taking the position that because of their independence, decisions of IPAC don't matter. So they bring their proposal and then write minutes that we have finished with that proposal. So the type of questions, answers to which see everybody, the understanding that the system is robust, they are refusing to answer them. So they are removing the building blocks of confidence in the system.
Because of one IPAC meeting?
Not one IPAC meeting, consistently.
Where's the consistency?
I don't know how much time you have for this program. That's why I'm saying that if we were to meet, then we can go into the issues one by one. For instance, voter registration is a very important building block for any credible election. So if you find a commission that is doing everything possible to ensure that people's right to register is suppressed, that is a way of rigging elections. Rigging election does not happen on voting day alone. So that is why there are robust systems of ensuring that people who are qualified to vote have been properly registered fairly across board. This is what they are refusing to do. So it marks a very important step towards rigging elections. And that is why we are raising the issue.
Mr. Sodinketia, is this the same electoral commission that when you were doing your national elections, your primaries, your presidential primaries, you issued a statement and said you trust the EC to run that election for you? In fact, you said nobody should go close if you're not an EC official. Instructed the police to arrest people if they come there pretending to be acting on your behalf of the party. You absolutely, completely handed over your primaries to the Electoral Commission, this same commission, to run. But you don't trust them to run the national elections in which you participate?
Listen to me, my brother. Listen to me. We have laws from a political party based upon which our elections are to be run. And every party member will hold the commission to the law. In this case, we have laws that govern national elections. And the political party doesn't consider itself capable of being held to apply the law. You see the difference. So, and let me tell you, we never issued a statement about the competence or integrity of electoral commission. No. We spoke about security of the election. And that has to do with policing. Because the actual conduct of the election, our internal party election, is done by an electoral committee, which does all the legwork, only for electoral commission to do just the voting, conduct the voting on the
Yeah,
voting
but election day is the EC that you left this for.
So we are not at election day yet. And we are saying that the processes that will lead to a transparent election, they are an issue now, and we are discussing. So how do you jump to NDC and political party? Let's get to the issue. Don't let us target.
No, but this is important. I mean, the final point though that they make today is that, in spite of the concern that you raised, they acknowledge them. They are willing and ready to engage you and open lines of communications so that you make the current system even better than it is. Is the NDC willing and able to embrace the EC with this offer that they've made today?
Is he talking about EC going to meet NDC exclusively?
No, all stakeholders they say, including your political parties, yourself and others.
For the stakeholder engagement, it's where they are refusing to allow input to be made.
But
So
there's no.
Are they now going to call other stakeholder meetings, and what form are they going to?
They've been holding regular.
Stakeholder engagement.
They've been holding regular IPAC meetings. They've been holding regular IPAC meetings, general, at which you've attended. There hasn't been any evidence to show that your inputs have been shut down and disregarded, is there?
Evans.
Yes, sir.
I listened to the Electoral Commission, and they raised several issues which I'm trying to address one by one. If I'm not stampeded and I'm allowed to respond to those issues, at the end of the day, you see how hollow all those arguments are. So I'll beg you, if you let us focus on the very issues that they have raised, and then we deal with them bullet by bullet, and you see how empty those points are. Otherwise, this banter is not going to solve anybody's problem unless we are doing public relations for the commission.
And I'm sure there'll be time to do this, but unfortunately, because of time constraints, and as you said, we should sit down and have a proper conversation on this. But I'm sure you've addressed some of the issues, and then there's more that we'll need to address as we, I guess, collectively, and Malik, collectively, we're serving the public's interest. And so if a stakeholder has a concern, you need to entertain that concern and get the public to hear. The EC has been responding to the concern they've heard already. But as I said, I'm grateful that you joined us for now. And I'm pretty sure that we'll get an opportunity to expand on some of the key issues that the EC already says they're willing to engage you on in the coming days. And you want to join us on News Time, because there's more that the EC has been talking about today that we'll be getting into on News Night tonight in the next few minutes, including details that they've given us about what the situation they met when this current administration took over and what they're doing to bring reforms, including implementing the Chief Justice's report after it investigated matters that led to the removal of a few of the commissioners. Want to stay with us for that. Also on Newsnight tonight, government and health workers flee Tripoli as renewed clashes between Konkombas and Chokosis in the northeast region escalates.
The situation is getting out of hand. And this morning we could hear gunshots, not far from Checkpoint Town. So